Awesome. Welcome everyone once more. And this one is a shorter mini version of our usual show that happens. And today we got a short topic about criticism. I'm again here with Coach Inayat Kanji from Ample Therapy. Welcome. And yeah, so Coach Kanji, criticism is a big thing as far as anxiety is concerned, as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. And one thing people keep talking about is self doubt. What has been your experience? What do people tell you during your sessions? And let's talk about it for a few minutes. Criticism and self doubt.
Criticism and self-doubt. Well, my professor once said a parent's only job is to give their child self-esteem, good
Mm-hmm,
self-esteem, nothing other. Because, as you mentioned there, if one has a low sense of self-esteem, it's often
mm-hmm,
stemming from that internal conversation, the most important
mm-hmm,
conversation one will have, one within
mm-hmm,
themselves. And when it is such a critical one, it's, as you mentioned, one that leaves them paralyzed in terms of their own beliefs about themselves, makes them
mm-hmm.
doubt themselves in every sense. And then that manifests in so many other ways within their life, and it's quite then destructive because ultimately they don't get to fulfill their life and potential and enjoy each day because within themselves there's this constant beating stick that
Yeah.
tells them in essence that they are not good enough.
In fact, I just thought of a visual. I'm surprised how these kind of thoughts come. Criticism initially was supposed to kind of keep us safe. Okay, be safe here, don't cross the road, this is the right way to do it and that's the wrong way to do it, and this is your handwriting is not good or your painting is not good and you could improve here and improve there. So imagine you're riding a bike and there are some guardrails, you have some stabilizing things, and that is criticism, meaning if you are not riding it right, it's like saving you from going too far from the ride, but they're meant to be high enough so that you can ride it. Criticism is like those things, they are constantly dragging you down, scratching,
Mm,
screeching, and
mm,
instead of you driving smoothly, they're slowing you down, and they're very loud. In fact, those screeching, if you see, um, I feel that everyone has something called PC with them, and in psychology, PC stands for personal the clinical term is pathological critic. I call it personal critic in plain English. Um, and PC can also stand for personal cheerleader, your own
mm.
friend.
Thank you,
And
thank you. It's good
the
mentioning that.
PC, yeah, personal critic, it keeps a list of all your mistakes, a gallery of how things went wrong, trying to keep with the disguise of I'm going to keep you safe, but it keeps us in the familiar zone. But if we also give some energy to our PC, which is personal cheerleader, every time we have done something right, has there been a pat on the back to our own self? And that will keep on increasing and balancing the criticism. If it is balanced, I really welcome criticism. But if it is not balanced, is when the problem comes, isn't it? When it is one-sided. Even if you one-sided either way, the problem is when there is no balance.
Indeed, indeed. No, you're right. Because ultimately, and why I've applauded it when you mentioned it, the personal cheerleader within oneself. This is often something which
Hmm.
I have to teach my clients because it's become
Hmm.
alien to them to have that supportive internal voice. They found
Hmm.
familiarity in uh, sometimes even comfort in criticism as they are, let's say, quite highly functionable. But unfortunately, the way in which they treat other people or the way they're disconnected from their own emotion as a result, their own internal
Yeah.
voice has almost been hijacked by this critical talk that they now, only function within. And so it's interesting, like you say, having also the ability to take constructive criticism, personal
Yeah.
criticism. Um, is an interesting pursuit, because if one is secure within their emotions and their
Hmm.
self-esteem, then any other form of criticism will be one that you can reframe in a way that is positive and
And welcome
motivational,
it.
and
You would
you
welcome it
welcome it and you
to
improve upon.
yeah.
However, if there is no internal cheerleader, there is no
Mm.
balance in knowing oneself and having comfort in one's own authentic being, then often one gets imposter syndrome. One gets, self-doubt, where they compare themselves constantly to other people, and the list goes on.
And they're constantly comparing to other people or something outside of themselves instead of comparing with them their own self or loving their own self. And this is where the self-esteem and the security side of things, it has to be generated from inside. Now many people ask me, it is like, is it, it's not easy. First of all, they ask me how to do it. The main reason it's not easy is how long have we practiced criticizing ourselves compared to how long have we practiced praising ourselves. And
Mm,
I mean, the key thing is, take the lesson, don't compare it with an external validation. I just thought of someone who, if you praise them too much, they feel very uncomfortable
mm,
because they're not
mm.
used to praise. They think
Yes, yes.
someone is trying to take advantage of them by giving some. Why they start questioning, why are you praising me?
I literally
Right?
had a client this
And
morning where that was the scenario.
yeah,
Literally this morning, that they've been so
right.
used to critical
Mm,
instruction as well as critical opinions, that
mm,
anything that I said was positive about them, they almost disbelieved and thought that I am being disingenuous, or like, faking it and
yeah.
making it up.
Yesterday in a sales workshop in business consulting, one of the trainers said
Mm,
a single sentence that I felt was really powerful.
mm,
They said, when you're trying to convince someone, you're actually trying to convince yourself.
very true, very true.
The main reason you are spending so much time convincing someone whether you are good or you are not good, or yeah, this is up to the mark and so forth, the first person you have to convince is you.
Indeed,
That
indeed.
and once that is true, the level of self confidence is so different. And I have seen that in children, because as adults we have too much of programming on top of it, and children are a bit more, purer. They don't come with that a huge amount of additional negative programming, which we pick up from variety of sources. And
Indeed.
I was teaching a child something related to coding.
Mm,
And after some time, she told herself audibly, so that we were also there and we heard it, and she was like, I'm so good at coding. And I felt it is such a natural thing for a child to say. But imagine an adult who has been used to criticism, and they would be like, they would be looking for what went wrong.
mm, mm.
And instead of self-praising. And this is very key. When we feel anxiety, when we feel we are taking a big decision,
Yeah.
the key thing we should be checking is it true? Are we doubting ourselves because of something really correct? And take a deep breath and deep look back internally. And if we are convinced that we have done all the efforts correctly,
Mm.
then we need not be worried about the result. And that reduces anxiety at that particular point.
Indeed, and I think, within business, especially,
Hmm.
and entrepreneurial kind of visions, or like even within, people who trying to achieve, promotions within their corporate positions, or whatever it might be, you know, wanting to further oneself and achieve in terms of these realms, if they have really loud critical voices, often I've had to work with clients
Mm-hmm.
because they have just basically fallen at the first juncture, because their
Mm.
relationship with failure is so catastrophized because of this critical voice. And so even when they have a dream or have a vision of trying to achieve, it
Mm-hmm.
seemingly paralyzes them and they find themselves in a rut. Whereas once you lift and change those emotional blockages from within by reframing the way that they view
Mm-hmm.
themselves. Often, as I do within RTT, regressing people to childhood and looking at
Mm-hmm.
where this stemmed from, they then, with their mature emotions, can see that, oh, this was inherited. I told myself a lie, really, because these aren't truths about me. And I am, as you mentioned, when you're a child, a blank slate. And in fact, these were others' opinions, others' thoughts, others' feelings, my
Yeah.
reaction emotionally to many situations at the time, which I've now snowballed into holding into a belief system about myself rather than
Yeah.
having let go at the time and understood that these are externalizations. And ultimately, I'm a forever growing and changing being who can achieve whatever I wish to if I put my mind to it. So it's really
Exactly.
interesting, yeah, not having a belief in oneself, not feeling enough, not having self-esteem can be really,
Yeah.
really paralyzing in terms of life. And it's often, as I say, one that is based on false evidence appearing real. The fear
Yeah.
of, actually shedding these beliefs that in some way, you've mentioned before, start feeling like a protectionism, but actually
Yeah.
are so destructive.
True. Um, this gives me an idea for the next talk in the coming week, and it would be related to the power of mistakes. And In fact, one of the comments that came encouraged me to say that, and I'll end today's thing with two points. One, I remember about a very special person. Uh, the second one, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts here when you mentioned about okay, the second one will come to me in a moment. If I don't, then it is in the next call. The one that came to me is Arnold Schwarzenegger was being interviewed in his early days when he was in his 20s or something. He was not that famous, and couple of his initial movies were disasters. And there was this newspaper lady who came and said, I want to interview you. And he said, in October this is going to happen, in December this is going to happen, and you will see my face in newspaper and so forth. And he was explaining what he's going to do in the next 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And the lady said, but Arnold, no one thinks like that. The general public don't doesn't think like that. And he replied, madam, all my life whatever I have achieved is by listening to myself and not to the general public. And with that thought, let's close this short video on criticism. Thank you so much, Coach Kanji. And we'll reconvene again with one more topic, most probably the power of mistakes, looking at the comments. But yeah, please keep the questions coming, the comments coming, and we thoroughly enjoy this because the more we talk about it, it becomes a shared issue and an easier thing to tackle than just doing it alone. Take care, everyone.